Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Laura Nizo. Coming up in this edition, the U.S. is urging international organizations, including the United Nations, to be less anti-Israel. Now that's a golden discovery. An IDF soldier finds an ancient coin during a routine military exercise on Mount Carmel. And these Israelis are keeping calm and carrying on with this creative and loud meditation technique. Israel may have one of the highest COVID infection rates in the world, but it also has one of the lowest COVID mortality rates. Perhaps the country's aggressive vaccine campaign has something to do with it. Now the numbers are beginning to give hope to the rest of the world. Hannah Rifkin reports.
Israel may be serving as the world's guinea pig right now, but according to initial results, the massive vaccine campaign is working. According to the Prime Minister, the vaccinated population accounts for a very small percentage of coronavirus deaths.
אנחנו במצב חירום לאומי. אני רוצה לתת לכם נתון מטלטל. בחודש האחרון, 30 יום האחרונים, מתו במדינת ישראל 1,536 אנשים. 97%, למעלה מ-97% מהם לא היו מחוסנים. פחות מ3% מהם היו מחוסנים. אנחנו מדינה של חיסונים.
As of Wednesday, 3.6 million people had received a first dose of the vaccine, and 2.2 million had both.
Last week was the first week where we can say with confidence that we began to see the effect of the vaccines on the national pandemic numbers.
Meanwhile, the Tel Aviv municipality opened a special clinic to vaccinate foreign nationals and asylum seekers free of charge in an effort to reach herd immunity as fast as possible.
It feels good. I feel lucky, fortunate, yeah. As like in India, it would be very hard right now because only government officials and health employees are getting vaccinated. And I'm quite grateful for this opportunity.
Health officials are hopeful that if the campaign continues, the numbers will continue to decline.
So the real impact of the vaccines should be seen this week and onwards. And we do expect some further decline in the overall cases and in the cases of severe morbidity.
Meanwhile, the country continues to observe a semi-lockdown, with many non-essential businesses still shut. But that could change soon, at least for those who are vaccinated. A plan presented by the Health Ministry this week hopes that gyms, malls, and hotels could open in just 2 weeks' time. Coffee shops and restaurants could open by early March. That is, if numbers continue to decline. On Tuesday, the Health Ministry recorded just over 6,000 new COVID cases. There are 1,020 serious cases, with 317 on ventilators. The death toll stands at 5,233. Meanwhile, there are 2 extremely promising drug treatment trials ongoing in Israel that have both proven to be over 90% effective, one of which is already being tested by other countries. Hannah Rifkin, ILTV.
Well, like you just heard in that report, Tel Aviv is offering free of charge COVID vaccines for foreign nationals, specifically focusing on an outreach campaign for African asylum seekers and foreign caregivers. Finally extending the national vaccine campaign to those residing in Israel but without an Israeli passport. Let's speak with Osman Ali, project coordinator for the African Students Organization. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much, first of all, and I am really happy to be with you, and thank you for the opportunity for the refugees and asylum seekers who have been suffering for such a long time about fighting this pandemic. Now is the time that they can have chance to be vaccinated. I think one of the biggest problems that we have faced since 2005 until today, it's about that people do not have papers or they don't have proper documents to be covered by the health insurance. And that's one of the biggest issues that we have been fighting against.
So speaking of that lack of documents, what kind of documents do the people that want to get vaccinated need to provide to the clinic? Do they need to show some kind of documentation other than maybe a passport?
Well, according to the whatever we have from the Ministry of Interior is just a visa and some passport. But like there are a lot of refugees and asylum seekers they don't have actually a passport, or some of them they don't even have visa, and that may be one of the biggest challenges we are facing. But as a pandemic is something epidemic, people have to actually bring people to have. Even if they don't have those kind of documents, still they should be vaccinated as long as their fingerprint or name in it. But the problem here that we see is that the Ministry of Interior didn't put Ministry of Health actually didn't give us opportunity that everything going on is all about the language and Hebrew, whatever English, and a lot of refugees and asylum seekers that live in Israel, they don't understand Hebrew very well, or whatever English is so very well. So we as advocating on behalf of those refugees, we are the one who have to explain every day. And I know that Ministry of Health have employed a lot of people in terms of the communities to explain to them why what is going on with coronavirus. But in our community, there is no. So we are only people who are standing for our community, and almost 0% that the rate of deaths in terms of position for human rights until now. There is no death cases for refugees and asylum seekers in front of coronavirus, and that is very well. I think this is the opportunity that a lot of people should go, and we are actually encouraging them to go and talking to them day and night with our own languages, with our cultural ways. It is not easy. It's not easy. It is a global thing, and we need actually help from Ministry of Health to pay attention in these things, because even if you vaccinated Israeli society and you didn't vaccinate refugees or asylum seekers, they are still living in the same community, and this is contagious disease. It is really, really important to pay attention on that.
Of course, a very important initiative, and anyone that can get vaccinated should absolutely go out there and get that vaccine. Osman Ali, thank you so much for your input.
You're welcome.
The International Criminal Court in The Hague has launched new social media campaigns in Hebrew and Arabic. Following a ruling this week which paves the way for an investigation into possible Israeli and Palestinian war crimes, the ICC posted a series of tweets detailing the scope of the upcoming investigation, which will focus largely on events like the 2014 Gaza war. Meanwhile, even though the ICC has not yet launched an investigation, senior defense officials in Israel could be arrested upon entry to some countries if they are convicted in The Hague. Israel's Justice Ministry says it is preparing to provide full protection of any Israeli citizen whom the court tries. Since the announcement earlier this week, several countries have voiced opposition, including Australia, Germany, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Austria, Brazil, Uganda, Canada, and the United States. Moving on now, rival Palestinian factions have finally agreed on terms to hold a first election in 15 years in just a few months from now. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas ordering 3 successive rounds of national elections, with the first set for late May. However, observers are very skeptical. It's not the first time that Abbas has vowed to hold elections after his 4-year term expired all the way back in 2009.
إلى شعبنا العظيم في الوطن وفي الشتات. قبل لحظات انتهى الحوار الوطني الفلسطيني الشامل اللي على مدار 48 ساعة كان هناك نقاشا جذريا معمقا للبحث عن آليات لرسم خارطة طريق تقودنا إلى إنجاز الوحدة الوطنية الفلسطينية، إنهاء الانقسام.
All past attempts have flopped, largely due to deep mistrust between rivals Fatah in the West Bank and Gaza Strip rulers Hamas. But could this time be different? Both Fatah and Hamas making statements of unity, with Hamas expressing hope that the vote will lead to a new Palestinian National Council.
ترحب حركة حماس بصدور المراسيم الرئاسية بشأن الانتخابات العامة، المجلس الوطني والمجلس التشريعي والرئاسية، وهنا تؤكد الحركة حرصها الشديد على إنجاح هذا الاستحقاق بما يحقق مصلحة الشعب الفلسطيني صاحب الحق المطلق في اختيار قيادته وممثليه.
And the United States is rejoining the controversial UN Human Rights Council after Donald Trump famously left it in 2019, citing anti-Israel bias.
The Secretary General welcomes the decision of the United States of America to re-engage with the UN Human Rights Council. The Human Rights Council is the world's leading forum for addressing a full range of human rights challenges. The Council's mechanisms and special procedures are vital tools for ensuring action and accountability. The United Nations looks forward to hearing the crucial voice of the United States.
Now, U.S. State Department spokesman Ned Price says the Biden administration will continue to defend Israel and any bias against it.
Israel and its security, including opposing actions that seek to target Israel unfairly. That takes me to the decision we announced earlier today. And I think our orienting principle here is that the United States can be a constructive force, that we can help shape the course of world events. We can help shape international institutions when we're present, when we're at the table.
Well, as U.S. President Joe Biden transforms the White House, Israel's prime minister had a short response to the latest Middle East policy shift. After former President Trump recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights back in 2019, the new Secretary of State stopped short of recognizing it as well. Netanyahu says Israel will keep the Golan Heights forever, citing the security situation in Syria.
טוב, הם אמרו שהם בוחנים את זה, אבל אני כבר בחנתי את זה. ומבחינתי, רמת הגולן תישאר תמיד חלק של מדינת ישראל, חלק ריבון. מה, אנחנו נחזיר אותה לסוריה, לתופת האיומה שיש שם? למלחמת האזרחים, לשפיכות הדמים.
Well, when an IDF soldier was in the middle of a military exercise on the slopes of Mount Carmel in northern Israel this week, he noticed an unusual object on the ground. It turned out to be an ancient and rare coin bearing the head of a prominent Roman emperor and dating back from 158 to 159 CE. Israel's Antiquities Authority says the coin is only one of 11 the National Treasures Department has in its entire collection. Dr. Yoav Farhi is an archaeologist and numismatist and was the lucky one who got a first look at the coin after it was discovered. He joins us now. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Welcome. Thank you.
So please tell us about the coin. You know, where did it come from? Who made it? And how rare is it to find something like this?
We're dealing with a coin of the city of Gaba. This was one of around 40 cities which struck coins during the Roman period from the 3rd century BC to the 1st century CE. And what is interesting is that these coins are very, very important to our understanding of this period, since we don't have any history books written about those cities. And when we have a coin from this period, as the coin that was found by this nice soldier, the coin is bearing on one side the portrait of the emperor or someone from his family, and on the back of the coin you can see some items which are related to the city itself. The guy or the figure or what looks like a Roman soldier on the back of the coin identified as lunar god named Men, and this is the only city in the region which depict this god on its coins.
So that coin, you know, is probably worth quite some money today, but I'm curious, how much did it represent at the time that it was actually used?
Oh, this is one of the hardest questions that we can't actually, very hard to answer, because as you can see, there are no signs of value on the coins, okay? Except of in very, very rare cases, ancient coins had no especially the ones struck in our area, were struck without any value, especially in the Roman period. It changed a bit later in the Byzantine period. In this period, we have no signs of value, so it is almost impossible to determine exactly what was it worth back then, or how much, or what could you buy with this in the local markets.
I'm curious to know what would have happened if that soldier had kept it. Is that a criminal offense?
Yes, of course. According to the Antiquity Law of 1978, if you find something which is more than 300 years old, you must declare about it and to make it known to the IAEA authorities. According to the law, you have 2 weeks for that. So actually, if you find, this is also something very important, that this soldier didn't kept it and inform someone who, in this case, it was me, that I suggested him how to deal with it. It's worth more to the research than it's worth to his pocket.
All right, Dr. Farhi, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, now let's move to a story that is sure to spice up your life. We are talking about saffron. It's the most expensive spice in the world, used to flavor foods in many different cultures. Saffron doesn't just taste good, though. It's now also being used in medicine to help treat symptoms of anxiety and depression. So how will supply keep up with the growing demand? Well, one Israeli startup is working to shake up the centuries-old saffron market. Take a look at this report from Gabby Briner.
It's the most expensive spice in the world. So highly sought after, it can cost up to $10,000 for 1 kilo. Yeah, I'd say it's worth it.
This is saffron, also known as red gold.
Saffron is like diamonds. When a chef heard the sound of saffron, it's like the most valuable thing in the kitchen. I put a little bit of hot water and I open the saffron and I make fish and meat, vegetables, rice, even potatoes. This saffron is coming from the lab, and we can see that the saffron is very fresh, very soft.
Yet there's a catch. Finding the perfect conditions to grow saffron is really hard, and what's even harder is the physical labour required to harvest it. But there's one Israeli startup working to change the face of the saffron market.
We're here at Saffron Tech, where they're using world-class agricultural technology to grow saffron here in Israel. And their business has the potential to turn the saffron market on its head.
So we are trying to take this plant for the first time to grow it indoor. By that we want to fully control its condition, to give it the best treatment it can have, both agricultural-wise, and manipulate the plant to think its full cycle and to achieve multi-cycles a year by doing so. So this is where we're running all our tests and experiments. We give it a lot of different treatments, trying to find the best treatments to give us the best yield, the highest yield and the best quality.
But saffron can do a lot more than just spice up your life. In the medical field, scientists are researching the effectiveness of saffron in treating anxiety, depression, and even Alzheimer's.
Saffron Tech has the potential to disrupt a very traditional old market and to bring new applications and new solutions to this market. Recently, saffron is used as a food supplement and basically also for the medical market as a stress relief and reduce anxiety. Unbelievably, this old spice is known as really good for those matters. In 1 year from now, we are planning to sell our own saffron that we produce in our machines and to distribute it all over the world.
So check out Saffron Tech's campaign at peoplebiz.com, and you too can join this Israeli technology in disrupting the saffron landscape.
Well, despite economic uncertainty and high unemployment rates, Israelis are buying more assets. Bank of Israel data indicates record mortgage rates by banks at the end of 2020, and credit for investment apartments reaching 1 billion shekels last year, the highest amount since August 2015. So why buy real estate during these uncertain times? Eyal Katz, founder and owner of Skyview Real Estate, joins us now. Thank you, Eyal, for joining me today.
Hi, Lauren. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so it appears that 2020 might not have been so bad after all. Why did Israelis end up buying more real estate, more apartments, despite, the pandemic and major job instability?
Well, basically, there's like three major reasons. The first one, people are looking for a stable market. And what's the alternative? Going to the stock market. Stock market is everything but a stable market. So they stay in the real estate market where it's stable and even rises every year. Maybe not by much, but it does increase every year. Second thing, we saw before the pandemic, people took their money abroad and invested in real estate in Europe or in the US. Today we see it less, and put on top of that the fact that Israel credit rate stayed high and is high, and it wasn't affected during the pandemic, made the decision easier for them to leave their money in Israel. And the third thing is the lack of government policy. There's no real government policy for reducing real estate prices. And combine all that together, that's why people are buying and prices are going up.
So is the data indicating that prices will go up? Was construction halted during this year with the pandemic and all sort of the political chaos that was happening in the country?
The construction wasn't affected. It stayed the same. And I said it earlier, the public is not stupid. He sees that the government has no agenda for reducing real estate prices, and there's not enough new apartments built every year, so he stopped waiting and the public is buying. Yeah.
So with us heading to a new election, with a new government that will be in power, does that mean there's going to be more construction?
Don't be too optimistic, Lauren. I don't see that coming, and I'm going to surprise you now. I hope you're sitting down. I'm going to tell you that.
It's not easy to surprise me, so go ahead.
The government decided that in the end of 2022, they're going to cancel the Tama project. There's not going to be any more Tama project.
Wow.
That means we're going to see even less supply than what we saw in these years. We have more demand, less supply. That's why prices going up.
I think everybody's sort of in a state of confusion right now with everything that's happening in politics and with the world, with the health situation. What can you recommend for our viewers who would actually like to invest during these uncertain times?
The interest rate on mortgages these days is low. So when you take money from the bank, it's cheap. I can give you this tip, Lauren. Start looking at commercial real estate.
All right.
If there is a field that was affected in the pandemic, it's the commercial real estate. If you look carefully, you can find owners that are pressured, that need to sell quickly, and then you can find yourself maybe a good deal.
All right, great tip. Eyal Katz, thank you so much as always.
Lauren. Thank you.
All right, time to take a look at the weather forecast with Chana Rifkin.
So today's forecast is calling for a mix of partly cloudy to sunny skies for tonight and tomorrow. Lows this evening averaging at about 48 degrees Fahrenheit or 9 degrees Celsius. Highs tomorrow are expected to get around 72 degrees Fahrenheit or 22 degrees Celsius. Beach season appears to be starting already. Back to you, Lauren.
Thanks, Chana. And now, before we go, let's take a look at what's going viral in Israel. Okay, this might be the strangest viral video I have ever come across. It's a group of elderly Israelis in Herzliya getting together in a field to scream together. They're trying to get out all of their frustration during the pandemic. Take a look. It's a really great method. I think all of you at home should definitely try it. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.26 shekels to the American dollar and 2.56 shekels to the Canadian dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Then don't forget to visit the all-new and improved ILTV website at iltv.tv and let us know what you think. Subscribe to our newsletter for the latest updates while you're there. I'm Laura Nizo. Thank you for watching.